How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another video. I'm walking here along this little section of beach, if you could call it that, down by Nemo's Pier. That's Nemo's Pier behind me here, and I'm in the Claddagh area of Galway, the famous Claddagh. Long walk is there. It's full of people this morning because it's a delightful morning, unusually warm on this Sunday morning. So I'm going to walk down here to the edge and chat about one thing that's kind of on my mind lately that I've been thinking about, that I've spoken before about on the channel, that sort of gets a bit of attention, and that is the sort of major demographic change that Ireland is going through. It's kind of hard to take it in sometimes how much it's changed, particularly when you go into our cities and how different it is now to, we'll say, what it was, at the turn of the millennium, just 25 years ago. So what is it going to be like in 2050? That is the question. So the tide is coming in here. You can see it just trickling in as I approach the water's edge here. And it is bright out today. And if you're looking at me saying, what's that guy doing wearing a jacket with no sleeves? Is he queer? Well, the answer is no, I'm not. I'm actually trying to just soak up a bit of sunlight, a bit of much needed vitamin D. And I had a black fleece with me, or this, have a vest on underneath, and this won over the black fleece. I want to get a bit of sun. Some lefty said that I was lacking vitamin D in a recent video, and he said that's why my thoughts were skewed. So you're sickened, buddy. And don't use the word queer if you're describing the gay community. It's offensive. Actually, do if you want, I don't mind. I think they use it themselves anyway, and worse, from what I hear. And I'd like to add that I have absolutely nothing against the gay community in Ireland. I like the gay lads. Not that way. I like them as in they're funny. No, I don't laugh at them either. I know a lot of gay guys. Well, no, I don't know a lot. I know a few. And they're very nice. And they're on my side. A lot of the time they're on my side. The gay lads are all right. They're genuine. They're born that way. I don't think any man ever said, you know what, I'm sick of women, I think I'm going to be gay for a while. That shit just doesn't happen. But women, on the other hand, woman isn't doing that well with men, starts to get angry. You know what, fuck this, I'm going to try women for a while. So what am I saying? Yeah, I'm kind of gone off topic. There's no escaping the fact that we're living in an incredibly different Ireland now in 2025 to what we did live in just a quarter of a century ago. Just how much it's changed. It's pretty radical, to use a term that suits my backwards baseball hat. Rad, dude. And I believe that, to use the term which I'm likely going to head this video on in the thumbnail, I do believe that we're at the halfway point now of a complete demographic overhaul here in Ireland. And what the hell do I mean by that? I mean that 25 years ago, we were pretty much all Irish, native Irish. Now, I know the left will like to say that, everybody, yeah, sure, everyone is Irish. Anyone that moves here, if they want to be Irish, they're as Irish as Darby O'Gill. But it was mostly Irish just a quarter of a century ago. And I think now, based on the changes and based on the last few years, I think in 2050, I think that native Irish people will be just another group, really, realistically here. I even would go as far, and you could call me an alarmist for saying this, but I even think that there might be other groups here in Ireland that might be in bigger numbers than, we'll say, the pure native Irish. The native Irish will no doubt mix in with other cultures. There's probably going to be a lot of people who are, half Polish, half Irish, half Brazilian, half Irish. Some more than others. There's no escaping the fact that people from the Muslim community and stuff will likely just remain, their own sort of group a little bit more, we'll say, than people who are, from countries like Poland or Latvia or these other places. I do think there's a difference there. What I'm really saying is that I think in 2050, it's going to be a complete and utter overhaul And the Ireland that we're used to, which is kind of disappearing realistically, I think by 2050, it's going to be a whole different country completely. And, if you want to say that that's a hateful view, fair enough, go for it, knock yourself out. But it's a realistic view. I don't have anything against people from moving here, choosing Ireland, why wouldn't they? I think most people are here for economic reasons. The fact that Ireland is an English-speaking country, and might as well add that, we're a good country for sort of handing out benefits and that to those who seek them. Come to Ireland, you're going to get more, you're going to get more handed to you than, would say, that if you go to, in a country like Montenegro or Croatia or somewhere like that, you're going to get more from the Irish government. So there's that element here. So it's changing fast, and I just want to tell a few little stories. And this is a bit of a random chat here today. I've no notes. I've just merely the thoughts in my head, and the glorious sunshine and cityscape that surrounds me. Galway is still a nice city, I think. It's still nice. I'm still kind of proud of it. It's very much home to me. When I walk through Shop Street, I do feel a little bit more like a tourist now than I used to. But there's no change in that now. From what I can tell, in the last few years, most of the new people coming into Ireland now seem to be non-European. Years ago we had the sort of Polish influx. We'll say go back to 2005, 2006. Most people that you would bump into that were immigrants in Ireland were from Poland. In fact, you would actually just not even ask them where they were from. You would just assume. I would go to my gym, and the gym that I train in is sort of an old school gym, and I hadn't been there for years, and I rejoined in 2005, and I was literally shocked at how it was completely full of Polish people. I mean, it was just unreal to witness it at the time. I'll never forget it. Like, there was more Polish people in there than there was Irish people. So that has kind of changed now in Ireland. Essentially, it's become more multicultural, really. There's more variety there, which is seen as a good thing, I suppose. So now when you meet somebody, with a that speaks in a sort of Slavic accent, they could be from various countries in that side of Europe. But yeah, anyway, the non-European sector is the big one that's growing now in Ireland. And I think and I've said it before, the South Asian conglomerate of people from, the south part of Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, really, those three countries. Now, there's a lot of people coming from sort of further east countries. There's quite a big growing Filipino community here. There's people from Thailand and all sorts. So it's a pretty mad makeup of people, in fairness. Down here at the boats again, I had to use the seclusion of this big rotted wreck here on my right hand side. And the more I look at this and the more it's falling apart, the more it seems just ridiculous to have this left here. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to get coffee soon as well. Will you join me for a coffee? I hope you will. Crows are clever. They'll take off first. He's going to bolt. So when it comes to, we'll say, the demographic change, the shift in Ireland, there's a strong argument coming from, we'll say, the left and those in favour of it, that people who move here become Irish and they integrate and they make Ireland their home, and they are essentially the new Irish. And it's kind of all the same then. Sure, whoever's here, they make the country their own and they adapt and all this. There's a slight bit of truth to that, but it only applies to certain people. I saw Douglas Murray recently speak about this. When you have smaller groups coming into a country and they're sort of surrounded by the natives there, they're kind of forced to integrate and to assimilate and to just, take on the culture and take on the actual, the workings of the country. And then when you get larger groups that sort of come in together, you will see how they sort of form their own community and they stick together. And in a way, they sort of live a life that's almost independent from, we'll say, the culture, the parent culture of the country that they're in. And you can see this happening now in Ireland. So there's a bit of both. I was chatting to a girl from Brazil recently, a lovely young woman from Brazil. She's here for 7 years. She's set up her own little business here. And she absolutely loves Ireland. She was telling me how she moved here. She said she was going to live here for 2 years to learn English, and then she was going to go back to Brazil. And she said that she hated it at the start. She couldn't stick the weather and all this. But she said eventually over time she began to really like it. So she was basically saying that she sort of kind of took on the Irish culture, and her English was flawless, absolutely flawless. So she was also saying then that she knows a lot of Brazilian people, and that they were essentially kind of, we'll say, still living more of a Brazilian life. And no fault to them, let them do it if they want. But, you know, her point was that she kind of disagreed with how they, continued pretty much to have a sort of we'll say, Brazilian life, but within Ireland, and that they shopped in, Brazilian food shops mostly. They had kind of Brazilian get-togethers and music and stuff. And she said, you know, if you move to a different country, that you should kind of adapt, so to speak. Is she right or are they right? Well, that's up to you to decide on that. But I just thought it was an interesting thing how different people will have a different attitude towards it. I know Polish lads who moved here years ago, like before the big Polish, we'll say, influx when Poland became a member of the EU. They had to jump through hoops, they were saying, to get here. They were almost angry when they saw everybody else coming from Poland then into Ireland so easily. It actually frustrated them. Now, I know Polish guys that hate the fact that Ireland has become so multicultural, because they were obsessed with Ireland. They thought Ireland was a really cool and unique little country up in the North Atlantic, and they decided to move here. Some of them are really creative, they're photographers and all that. So a lot of them kind of live a life that's very much an Irish type of life. They kind of got on with things here, and they don't have, they're not surrounded by, we'll say, their own folk, so to speak. So you'll hear different stories, and you could even say the same for the Pakistani community and in people from India and stuff. You know, my doctor years ago, he's retired now a long time, but he was from India. And there was always like a few people from Pakistan. I remember in school, there was only one guy that wasn't native Irish in our whole school. And he was, I do believe, of Pakistani parents. He was probably born here. But he, it was a little community there. There was a few, they ran the local shop. And, that was it. They were surrounded by Irish people, really, So now it's changing because you have bigger groups, and you have a sort of a different setup, really, to what it was. If it's a good thing, I don't know. But it's definitely something that's kind of changing up the vibe of Ireland in a big way. I always seem to have to hop this thing anytime I'm down in the Claddagh in Galway. Bit of Italian there as I walk past. People out enjoying the sun. It's a bit early for drinking, so you won't get the riffraff yet. How's it going? No, yeah, vlog. Trying to get a bit of vitamin D in the process, The Claddagh Basin is the point where the Eglinton Canal rejoins the River Corrib. It was built at the same time as the canal, which opened in 1852. I love this little bridge here. It's more of a gate, isn't it? A locking gate. I forget the terminology. Maybe you guys in the comments can fill me in on that. It's where they basically just lock in the water there for the boats. So this is the famous River Corrib. The River Corrib is the most, you could probably say, for the want of a better descriptive word, the most ferocious river in Ireland. It's a magic body of water. I just love it, and I love, it's what I love most about Galway is just its position in Ireland. It's just right on the west. It's got like the second biggest lake in Ireland, the Corrib, just right above it. So I could never not live beside water, to be honest with you. The sea mostly, but having the lake join the sea like this, the Corrib here, it's a short river, but man, it's an awesome stretch of water. Love it. I just wish they would do something with this. I know I put it in a video recently, but I wish they'd do something with this down here. They will. I know they will. So this is heading up Quay Street. Real tourist part of town. Nice though. It's lovely. Very picturesque. And Cross Street is right here. So I'll get coffee here and then we'll take a little ramble. That is a good coffee. Coffee Work and Press, Quay Street, Galway. And there we have the famous Noctons as I walk into the shade here. Nice little part of town, the Latin Quarter. Got a lot of nice shops and pubs here. This is the kind of, if you visit Galway and you want to go on the absolute lash, you'll end up here. Let's take a little walk up by the river here. So the shop across the road, you know, there's people working there and I can see them bringing in deliveries and stuff, and they're all from, more than likely from Pakistan. So there's a good chance now when you're in Ireland and if you visit a shop or a gas station that the worker there will be, you know, from South Asia. So it's very much, I've noticed that now in the last few years that there's a sort of, you know, there's a big spurt in the South Asian community working in places like this. Garages now that are close to me, they used to always have East European guys working in there, and now it's completely, we'll say, the South Asian guys, you know. It's another building there that sort of doesn't know what it is. I think they have, there might still be a bit of retail there, but I think a lot of it is closed down, and nicely poised on the river here. It should be sort of more of a prestigious part of Galway, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's just lacking, or there's something missing, and it's gone a bit dilapidated now. And I remember when that was built, that place. I did some work on it in my previous business before I was shooting on cameras. So this is the famous, you know, Salmon Weir Bridge up here that I'm just going to walk up to now. So this is turning out to be a fairly big video. It's more like a podcast. That might be no harm actually, doing podcasts on foot as you walk around Galway city or any city in Ireland and chat about things that are worthy of discussion. See this little carving here? It was some sort of a carving, but the weather has, taken its toll. Exfoliation of some sort. So it's 12 bells here now at the cathedral, Galway city. I am soaking up the rays today. I swore that I'd use more humor in these videos, and I find that just in this last chat here, that I'm just a bit too serious, and I wanted to kind of have a bit of a laugh doing these videos. Morning, how are you? I think I'm on to something with this outfit today. I look a bit more like a tourist than a native Irish person. Kind of means that you can get away with just shoving a GoPro around the place without someone saying, oh, there, that guy is talking about stuff that we shouldn't be talking about. He's a big meanie. Instead, they're going, oh, who's that touristy guy with the backwards baseball hat? And somebody said to me lately, you know, oh, here's a guy that, look at him, he's wearing a baseball hat and speaking in an American accent, and he's on about Irishness. What does he want me to be, you know, eating bacon and cabbage and going around in a tweed waistcoat and one of those, I forget the name of the type of hats, looking like Cillian Murphy in that, what's the name of that TV show that I never watched? You know, there's a tendency that, you know, you'll be labelled, if you're concerned about, we'll say, the changes, the radical changes that demographic changes we're making to your country. I mean, we're seeing it all around Europe. Come on, guys. wake up and smell the coffee. But there's a tendency then that people think that you're overly, or that you're kind of, you know, obsessed with tradition and stuff. And but those are two totally different things. You know, they're different things. There was a clip I saw there of Tucker Carlson speaking at some event or conference, and it was just a little snippet that some guys, it's going back a few weeks on X, and it was where Tucker Carlson was just talking about demographics in, you know, in the world, and the population changes and the large movement of, you know, people and stuff. And he just, in the clip, he goes, you know, look at Ireland, you know, look what's happening in Ireland. And nobody's talking about it. You know, Tucker, you kind of, huh? Tucker? Nobody's talking about it. That's kind of my Tucker impression. And in the clip, he kind of says, there's not going to be an Ireland in 100 years. He says, there's not going to be an Ireland in 100 years. That might seem like a very, very outrageous comment to make. But if you think about it, based on what I've said in this video, you know, you could say that in a way, there's not going to be an Ireland in 25 years, in a quarter of that time. I mean, if you take 100 years from now, that's, you know, 21, 25, shall we say. I mean, God knows what it's going to be like. But even if you take, like, as I said, the last 25 years from the turn of the millennium, Ireland, like, is going to be a radically different country. I mean, we're talking massively different place than what it was at the start of the century. It's not really going to be Ireland, I think, by 2050. Whether it's you see that as a bad thing or not, I mean, it's going to be a completely multicultural nation, completely. Absolutely, completely. Like, if you look at Dublin city centre now, in comparison to what it was a decade ago, and then go forward another 25 years, are you kidding me? And to reiterate, no, I'm not saying everyone that's moved here is a negative thing. And yes, I know that, you know, I understand how business works, and I know from staff, you know, running business point of view, I understand how it works. You need people and all that. Yeah, we've had that discussion. But I just think that it's going to be, as I said, radically different to what it was. I love nice days like this, but I always have a kind of a feeling of FOMO, you know. Like, if I knew it was going to be this nice, why didn't I go to Connemara and camp out? You know, that type of thing. I'm always thinking like that. Okay, so I'm heading back now to the Claddagh. Back through the Claddagh, I should say. So I've been speaking a lot in sort of figures in this video, in the unit of the 25, the quarter. You know, I've mentioned 2000, 25 years ago, and then today, 2025. So what will be the sort of the makeup then? What will be the percentages of the population, of the demographics? Whether you see everyone as being just Irish, you know, assimilated or not. What will their, you know, country of origin or their geographical location of origin be? Might sound a bit harsh, but I actually think, based on what I'm seeing and the changes, and particularly if you look at the younger population, I'll get to that in a second, but I actually think that the Irish, the true native Irish, of Irish parents mostly, we'll say, will be about 25% of Ireland's population. That's just my guess. Call me wrong, prove me wrong. I'd only love you to do that. Feel free to provide the source, because you guys love asking for source. You gotta have your source. So give me a source, guys. Let me know what you think. Although it's hard to provide a source for projected demographic percentages. But if you look at the younger population, take for example Brazilians, right? Brazilians, and even we'll say the South Asian community and the East, you know, the East Asian community, people from Thailand, the Philippines and stuff, they tend to be younger. Like the average age of a Brazilian in Ireland is about, you know, I don't know, mid to late 20s probably. I'm not too sure. Maybe a little bit more than that. I'm not too sure. But there's a younger population. The immigrants are a younger population on average than the Irish. So they're more likely to be, you know, childbearing in a way. And then if you look at the schools, I mean, the school I went to, as far as I know, it had zero non-Irish. It was 100% Irish when I was there. And now it's, I would say 40% Irish. So that's today. You know what I mean? And that's coming like in 20 years, we're talking that much of a change. So what is it going to be in another 20 years, 25 years? This is the thing I'm saying. Then you have the birth rates, the amount of people that I grew up with, women, there's a huge amount of women that I know from my sort of, era that just didn't have kids for various reasons. Some of them were very selective, others, just were unlucky. And then there was others that just decided, no, I want to focus on my career and have a child later. And then it just never happened. So, I mean, I could literally name 20 women like that are in their 40s now that are, good looking girls and all that just never had children. But yeah, we're having less children than we used to. There's no escaping that fact. So if the Irish are, 25%, who's going to make up the rest of the population? Maybe you should decide on that. Well, look who's here today. Look who's growing in numbers. And I do think, there's going to be a huge section of the population going to be from South Asia. Huge, massive. And people might say that, oh, you're afraid of the brown invasion. If it wasn't brown people, you wouldn't have a problem with it. Not true. Let me tell you that I kind of like people from India. There's a lot of guys now in the gym from that part of the world, chatting to guys training in the gym. I chat to these guys. I'll tell you one thing. They're very, very easygoing. They're chilled out. They're very, very calm in their demeanour. That's just going by the gym, we'll say. Guy training beside you. How's it going, buddy? So I'll talk to anyone, and when I'm walking up through Dublin or parts of Galway and I hear, somebody having a big loud conversation in, Russian or in a Slavic language, or Ukrainian or whatever, do I say to myself, okay, they're not talking English, but at least they're white people? Not really, pal. I don't really think like that. I mentioned a Brazilian girl that I was chatting to the last day, and she said to me that she's literally in shock at how little she hears English spoken in Dublin city centre, And it wouldn't be right to mention demographic changes if you didn't mention the whole Islam thing. So what percentage of Ireland will be Muslim in 2050? Maybe I should stay out of that one for now, because that's always a heated topic of discussion. Stop spreading hate. You're scaremongering. Ooh, the angle of this is making it a little bit uncomfortable to sit on. So from the Claddagh here in Galway, for another video, guys, it's all from me. Be good, enjoy yourselves. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share it, broad and wide. Leave a comment, leave a like. It's good for the algorithm. It's not all about views either, is it?